Before the cameras stopped rolling, one shocking accusation changed how many people looked at a television legend. Pernell Roberts once called a fellow actor a child of Satan, a statement so harsh that it sparked years of rumors, questions, and speculation. Was it simple anger, a deep personal conflict, or something far more complicated? Behind one of television's most famous casts was a story of clashing values, wounded pride, and hidden tensions that few truly understood. But what happened behind the cameras told a very different story. Millions of viewers saw a close family on screen. They laughed together, stood by each other, and faced every challenge as one. Yet away from the bright lights of Hollywood, the relationships between some of the actors were far more complicated. Long before a shocking remark would make headlines, the seeds of conflict had already been planted. When Bonanza first aired in 1959, it quickly became one of America's biggest television hits. Week after week, families gathered around their televisions to watch the Cartwright family ride across the Ponderosa ranch. The series ran for 14 seasons and became one of the longest-running westerns in television history. It turned its stars into household names and made them symbols of courage, loyalty, and family values. One of those stars was Pernell Roberts, who played Adam Cartwright, the oldest and most educated of the Cartwright brothers. Roberts was talented, thoughtful, and deeply passionate about acting. But unlike many Hollywood stars of his time, he was also outspoken. He believed actors should challenge themselves instead of becoming trapped in one role. He also cared deeply about social issues, including civil rights and equality, often speaking publicly about causes he believed in. Standing beside him was Dan Blocker, the gentle giant who played Eric Haas, Cartwright. On screen, Haas was kind, honest, and loved by audiences everywhere. Off-screen, Blocker was known by many friends and co-workers as warm, generous, and easy to get along with. His calm personality made him one of the most respected members of the cast. At first glance, Roberts and Blocker seemed like they should have gotten along well. They were both intelligent men with strong beliefs and successful careers. But people with powerful personalities do not always see the world in the same way. As Bonanza grew more successful, Roberts became increasingly frustrated. In several interviews over the years, he explained that he felt limited by the repetitive nature of the show. He wanted more challenging acting roles and worried that staying too long would define his entire career. While much of the cast embraced the show's enormous success, Roberts often questioned whether fame was worth sacrificing artistic freedom. What do you think matters more, staying loyal to a successful opportunity or risking everything to follow your personal dreams? Share your thoughts in the comments below. That difference in outlook slowly created distance between Roberts and others on the set. While no one could see it on television, disagreements over careers, personal beliefs, and the future were quietly growing behind the scenes. And before long, one relationship in particular would reach a breaking point, leading to a remark so shocking that people would still be talking about it decades later. But the real conflict wasn't about one argument. It was about two men who saw the world through completely different eyes. As Bonanza became a television phenomenon, the pressure behind the scenes grew stronger. Fans believed the cast was as close as the Cartwright family they watched every week. The truth, according to interviews and biographies, was much more complicated. Pernell Roberts was never comfortable with simply being a television star. He had trained as a serious actor and dreamed of performing on Broadway and taking on more challenging roles. In interviews over the years, he admitted that he disliked being tied to one character for so long. He also criticized parts of the show's storytelling, saying he wanted scripts that explored deeper ideas instead of repeating familiar patterns. Many of his castmates looked at the situation differently. Dan Blocker appreciated the stability that Bonanza provided. The series gave him financial security, national fame, and the chance to support his family. Friends often described Blocker as practical and down-to-earth. While Roberts was searching for artistic freedom, Blocker seemed grateful for the opportunity he already had. These different priorities slowly became impossible to ignore. The cast remained professional in front of the cameras, but reports from biographies and later interviews suggest Roberts often felt isolated. He did not always join social gatherings with the rest of the cast, and he openly questioned decisions made by the producers. His willingness to challenge authority earned him respect from some people, but it also created tension with others who preferred to keep the production running smoothly. By the mid-1960s, Roberts had made one of the boldest decisions of his career. At the height of Bonanza's popularity, he chose to leave the series. It was a move that shocked both NBC executives and millions of viewers. Walking away from one of television's biggest shows was a huge gamble. Many believed no actor would willingly leave such success. Yet Roberts believed staying would cost him something even more valuable: his sense of purpose as an artist. At the time, few people realized that personal disagreements and conflicting values had become just as important as career ambitions. Different personalities, different beliefs, and different ways of looking at life had quietly created deep divisions behind the scenes. If you enjoy discovering the hidden stories behind Hollywood's biggest stars, subscribe to the channel. Some of the most surprising truths are often found far away from the cameras, and the biggest revelation in this story is still ahead. Then came the comment that would outlive both the television series and many of the rumors surrounding it. When Pernell Roberts reportedly referred to Dan Blocker as a child of Satan, the words stunned anyone who heard them. But did he really say it, and if so, what was happening at that moment that could explain such an explosive statement? The answer requires looking beyond the headline and into the evidence, a story far more complex than the rumor itself. But what if the most famous line in this story was never proven at all? This is where many documentaries stop asking questions and simply repeat a dramatic headline. But when you look at the historical record, the story becomes far less certain and far more interesting. For years, articles, videos, and social media posts have claimed that Pernell Roberts called Dan Blocker a child of Satan. It is an unforgettable phrase. It grabs attention instantly and paints a picture of deep hatred between two famous co-stars. The problem is that there is no widely verified interview, television appearance, or primary source where Roberts can clearly be seen or heard making that statement. Historians, entertainment journalists, and biographers have documented many disagreements involving Roberts during his years on Bonanza. His frustration with the show's direction is well known. He openly discussed his desire to leave the series and pursue more meaningful acting roles. These facts are supported by numerous interviews Roberts gave over the years. However, when it comes to the exact child of Satan quote, the evidence becomes much weaker. According to various online reports, the remark was supposedly made during a heated private conversation or repeated through second-hand accounts. But those reports often point back to each other instead of to an original interview or recording. Without a reliable primary source, historians cannot confirm that Roberts actually used those words. That doesn't mean there was no tension. Roberts and several members of the production had very different personalities and opinions. His willingness to challenge producers, question scripts, and criticize aspects of the show sometimes placed him at odds with others. Even after leaving Bonanza, he rarely hid his feelings about the limitations he believed television had placed on his career. Dan Blocker, meanwhile, continued to earn admiration from both fans and many colleagues. Known for his calm nature and generous spirit, he remained one of the most beloved members of the cast until his sudden death in 1972 at just 43 years old. His passing shocked Hollywood and devastated millions of viewers. Bonanza itself was deeply affected, and many believe the series never fully recovered from losing him. This contrast helped fuel the rumors. One man was remembered as outspoken and rebellious. The other was remembered as kind and dependable. Over time, dramatic stories grew around those differences, making it difficult to separate fact from fiction. Everyone has experienced a moment when a rumor spread faster than the truth. Sometimes a single sentence, whether it was said or not, can shape how people remember someone for decades. As we move forward, another question emerges. If the famous quote cannot be fully verified, why has it survived for so many years? And what does Pernell Roberts' life after Bonanza reveal about the man behind the controversy? But leaving the biggest show on television did not bring the freedom Pernell Roberts had imagined. Instead, it opened a new chapter filled with difficult choices, unexpected setbacks, and a lifelong struggle between artistic passion and public expectation. When Roberts walked away from Bonanza in 1965, many people thought he was making a terrible mistake. The series was still one of America's highest-rated television programs. Most actors would have done almost anything to keep such a successful role. Roberts wanted something different. He believed an actor should never become trapped by one character. In later interviews, he explained that he longed to perform in theater, take on challenging dramatic roles, and build a career based on artistic growth rather than popularity. It was a brave decision, but it came with a price. After leaving Bonanza, Roberts appeared in stage productions, television dramas, and films. Although he continued working steadily, he never again reached the same level of fame that Adam Cartwright had brought him. For many viewers, he would always be remembered as the eldest Cartwright, no matter how many other roles he played. That reality weighed heavily on him. At the same time, Roberts never stopped standing up for causes he believed in. He supported the civil rights movement and publicly opposed racial discrimination during a period when many celebrities avoided political controversy. According to interviews and public records, he even participated in civil rights demonstrations and used his public profile to support equality. Those choices earned him admiration from some people and criticism from others. Roberts accepted that speaking honestly could cost him opportunities. Meanwhile, the memory of Dan Blocker continued to grow after his untimely death in 1972. Friends, cast members, and industry professionals frequently described him as humble, generous, and deeply devoted to his family. His passing left an emotional hole in the Bonanza cast that many believed could never truly be filled. Looking back today, it becomes clear that Roberts and Blocker represented two very different paths through Hollywood. One embraced stability and became beloved by millions. The other chose uncertainty in pursuit of personal conviction and artistic freedom. Neither journey was easy. Everyone reaches a point where they must choose between comfort and conviction. Some choose security. Others choose purpose. The decision may look different, but the sacrifice is real for everyone. As the years passed, public opinion about Pernell Roberts slowly became more balanced. Many who once criticized his departure began to recognize the courage it took to leave guaranteed success for a chance to follow his principles. Yet one important part of his story still remained. Beyond the headlines, the rumors, and the television fame, what kind of legacy did Pernell Roberts truly leave behind? And why does his influence continue to be discussed decades after Bonanza ended? But the biggest surprise wasn't what Pernell Roberts said, it was what he stood for. As the years passed, the headlines faded, the rumors continued to circulate, and a different picture of the man began to emerge. It was a picture that was more complex than either his critics or his supporters had imagined. Unlike many television stars, Roberts never tried to build a business empire around his fame. There were no major product lines carrying his name, no large investment portfolio promoted in the media, and no carefully crafted celebrity brand. His greatest investment was in the kind of work he believed mattered. After Bonanza, he continued acting in theater, television, and film. One of his most successful later roles came in the medical drama Trapper John, M.D., where he played Dr. John McIntyre from 1979 to 1986. The series introduced him to a new generation of viewers and proved that his career had not ended when he left the Ponderosa. While the role never matched the cultural impact of Adam Cartwright, it reminded audiences that Roberts was far more than a one-character actor. Away from Hollywood, Roberts remained committed to causes he believed in. He continued speaking about civil rights, equality, and social justice. During a time when many celebrities stayed silent to protect their careers, Roberts often chose to speak openly, even if it meant risking popularity. Public records and interviews throughout his life show that these beliefs were not temporary, they were part of who he was. This is one reason historians often describe him as an actor who valued principles over comfort. At the same time, Dan Blocker's legacy followed a different path. Fans remembered him not only for playing Hoss Cartwright, but also for the kindness that friends and co-workers consistently described. Decades after his death, stories of his generosity continued to appear in interviews with those who had known him personally. When you compare these two men, it becomes clear that their differences were never as simple as good versus bad. They were two talented actors with different personalities, different ambitions, and different ideas about success. That contrast helped create misunderstandings that have lasted for generations. The famous Child of Satan story is a perfect example. Despite its popularity online, no widely accepted primary source has confirmed that Roberts actually made the statement. It remains a claim repeated across countless articles and videos, but one that responsible historians continue to treat with caution. Everyone leaves behind two stories, the one people tell and the one supported by facts. The challenge is learning to tell the difference. That brings us to the final chapter. Looking back at Pernell Roberts' remarkable life, what should history remember, And what lessons can we still learn from a man who refused to follow the easiest path? But after all the rumors, all the headlines, and all the years that have passed, one question remains. How should history remember Pernell Roberts? As the difficult actor who walked away from television's biggest Western? Or as a man who chose conviction over comfort, even when it came at a personal cost? The answer depends on whether we judge people by rumors or by verified facts. Pernell Roberts never became the biggest star to come out of Bonanza. In fact, leaving the show likely cost him years of guaranteed fame and financial success. But looking back, there is little evidence that he regretted following his own path. Throughout his life, he continued acting, performing on stage, and speaking openly about the causes he believed mattered. He passed away in 2010 at the age of 81, leaving behind a career that stretched across television, film, and theater. Although many still remember him first as Adam Cartwright, others remember something deeper, a man who refused to let fame define his identity. Dan Blocker's legacy also remains powerful. More than 5 decades after his passing, Hoss Cartwright is still one of the most beloved characters in television history. Fans continue to celebrate his warmth, humor, and kindness. His influence helped make Bonanza more than just another Western. It became a story about family, loyalty, and compassion. When we compare the lives of these two men today, we see more than a disagreement between co-stars. We see two different philosophies of life. One found happiness in stability, teamwork, and the role that made him famous. The other believed that personal growth sometimes required walking away, even when the entire world told him to stay. As for the claim that Pernell Roberts called Dan Blocker a child of Satan, the historical record remains incomplete. Despite the phrase appearing in many online articles and videos, researchers have not produced a widely accepted primary source confirming that Roberts actually made the remark. That distinction matters because repeating an unverified claim as fact can unfairly shape someone's legacy. History deserves careful storytelling. The most fascinating stories are not always the loudest ones. They are the ones that survive careful research, honest reporting, and a willingness to separate myth from reality. If this story made you think differently about Hollywood legends, remember that every famous life has layers the public rarely sees. Sometimes the truth is quieter than the rumor, but it lasts much longer. And this is only one remarkable journey hidden behind the golden age of television. Another legendary Hollywood story reveals an even more surprising truth, where fame, friendship, and betrayal took an unforgettable turn. You won't want to miss that documentary.